Joining us on the line, writing an article today on Japers Rink and part of our twice-a-week feature here on Caps Talk involving Japers Rink. Kevin Klein joining us. The name of the article is Line Changes of Effect and Effectiveness. Kevin, joining us by phone. How are you?
Hey, John. I'm doing well. No better place to rock the red than a wine bar, huh?
Yeah, if we could only rock some red on this table, it would be a little bit better. But, duty calls here in a little while. But great to have you with us. I pictured you and the rest of the folks over at Japers yesterday when Jay Beagle moved to the top line. My first reaction was, I want to grab my phone, I want to go to Twitter, and I just kind of want to watch what happens next. What was your initial reaction to the line shakeup yesterday?
I really don't have a problem with it. I think that in general you could kind of see that a general shakeup was coming, and I don't think that if the Jay Beagle on the top line would necessarily be my choice, but I understand it. I think there's a difference between taking an action and seeking short-term results versus taking an action that's designed to achieve long-term results. And we know that moving Jay Beagle to the top line is almost certainly the former. Ovechkin, Backstrom, and Beagle has never really worked well in the past, despite several different instances of it being tried. So I really just think that having jump up to the top of the lineup there and then knocking the rest of the right wing troops down a rung on that ladder is probably more rocking the boat and hoping that the team's lethargy goes overboard. Just kind of more of a shock to the system rather than any sort of actual expectation that Jay Beagle is going to be the guy that gets the top line going again.
Hey, Kevin, it's Ben Raby here. We were talking about it a little bit earlier in the hour, a little bit earlier in the show, when you talk about the trickle-down effect of Jay Beagle going to the top line and sort of the other right wingers taking a step down the depth chart a little bit. One area that we've highlighted a little bit is the potential of Justin Williams trying to get the likes of a Jason Chimera and Marcus Johansson going on that third line. That third trio of late certainly struggling to find the back of the net for the Capitals.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Justin Williams, I mean, he just makes everyone better when he's on the ice with them. And so it certainly stands to reason that with Justin out there with Jason Chimera and Marcus Johansson, they'll get more offensive zone time than they've had before, or less defensive zone time. But he always seems to tilt the ice in one way or another. But when it comes to getting that third line going, I mean, John and I spoke last week. He asked me if I thought that maybe Dan Winnick and Mike Richards were maybe the new look third line based on the ice time distribution. And the level of play that prompted that question has continued throughout the week. And so I kind of think maybe give those guys a shot on the third line. We know that that the team's bottom six forwards are probably going to stay the bottom six forwards, and the top six forwards are probably going to stay the top six forwards. So I think you have a fix for the third line just in your fourth line, your nominal fourth line, based on how they've played lately. And then maybe a guy like Justin Williams can slot up on the top line there, and because he's so good at getting more offensive zone time, why not have him right along with Backstrom and Ovechkin for a little bit while, who are obviously your most dangerous players in that offensive zone.
Kevin, we talked about this a little bit with Isabel Kershudian in the last segment, but I feel like we might have buried the lead a little bit on this Beagle thing. Everybody sees Beagle move to the top, and that's where a lot of the attention was paid yesterday. But in looking at where Justin Williams is tonight, skating on a line with Jason Chimera and Marcus Johansson, as Ben will illustrate momentarily with some hardcore statistics, and you may very well too, this has not been a good run for number 25 and Marcus Johansson, not a whole lot from him offensively either of late. Justin Williams has the ability to plug in on any line and be a little bit of a resuscitation offensively, defensively, very responsible with a puck. I almost feel, and we'll hear a little bit from Barry Trotz on this later too, but I almost feel that might be the biggest thing is the shakeup, and Beagle was just kind of a byproduct of that because he goes somewhere, you get something on each line, but trying to get that third line going again might be pretty important here in the final 14 games.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, that's what created so much success throughout the years. Was you had great scoring through all three lines. A few weeks ago, I wrote a piece on the site, and I broke down the scoring rates by line. And the reality was the Caps' third line scored the most often with the ice time that they were given, and then the second line, and then the first line. But then you throw in how the ice time is distributed, and you're just getting a ton of scoring up and down the lineup, and that's obviously dried up. I would agree with you that Justin Williams being on the third line there is bearing the lead a little bit. he was brought into the organization to be a top 6 guy, and that's where he's been all year. So I don't see him being on the third line as any more permanent than Beagle being on the first line. But I think it just speaks more to the overall point of the line changes that we saw during the skate yesterday and that we'll see to start the game tonight. I think it's more about just shocking the system, stirring the pot, whatever other metaphor that you want to use. And it's about waking the team up more so than it's about optimizing the lines. I don't think there's any sort of presumption from Barry Trotz that the lines as they are tonight are optimal or that he'd want them to be this way in the playoffs. But this isn't the playoffs. It's about getting ready for the playoffs, and I think this is a preemptive measure for that.
And, Kevin, some of those scoring droughts that the Capitals looking to snap tonight, Jason Chimera entering play tonight seeking his first goal in 10 games. Marcus Johansson, only 1 goal in his last 16, and Tom Wilson, only 1 tally in his last 15 games overall. So, yes, a shake-up to all lines, but, again, to that third line in particular. We'll see how that goes tonight with Justin Williams at least starting out on that third trio. But to an earlier point you made, Kevin, and I know it's been a talking point of late for the Capitals, they haven't necessarily found the back of the net, but the fourth line on the road trip of Daniel Winnick, Mike Richards, and at least at the time, Jay Beagle rounding out that trio. A line that maybe hasn't necessarily found the back of the net, hasn't scored in some time, but a trio which has basically encompassed the fourth line mentality, playing heavy hockey, strong forecheck, trying to get momentum on the Capitals side, making the opposition work, and we saw quite a bit of that last week on the road trip, and really since those three, who we expect to see back together at some point soon, I imagine, really the three of them working nicely together.
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely great, and it's a total privilege to have that on the fourth line, the so-called fourth line. I mean, with the ice time that they're getting is probably more like a line 3.5. But the way that I perceive it is that if they can sustain this level of play, and that might be a little bit much to ask. I think they're playing like 75% of their minutes in the offensive zone, which is just asinine. But they can create momentum. They can sustain momentum.
Tell us how you really feel, Kevin.
I mean, I say that in a good way. You know, it's really, you don't see that level of play sustained by hardly anyone over large sample sizes. But hopefully they can, and they haven't shown any signs of slowing down. And so to be able to throw them out there and get those kind of results, and really just swing the momentum in a game, if they keep it up, the goals will start coming for sure. I think that would be an interesting look, to be honest, is to have Mike Richards and Daniel Winnick, who I think have some of the best legs on the team right now, with a guy who's a little bit more skilled like Marcus Johansson. So maybe you get that energy and the fourth line element there, but then you throw in a little bit of skill that maybe helps some of those pucks go in and maybe helps up the ante when it comes to the finish. But yeah, bottom line is that line has really worked out kind of better than anyone could have possibly imagined. And as a result, they're getting rewarded for it.
Well, Kevin, as always, appreciate the weekly hit that we do here. And this audio, put it up on japersrink.com as well. But we appreciate you coming by and chatting with us, Kevin. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the game.